Alright, so today's lesson is going to be very short. This is the end of 26.4, just putting the two tangent kind of ideas together. So what you should have taken away so far is that we have tangent in the form y equals a times the tangent of b times x. A is going to affect the y values, and it's not amplitude, tangent doesn't have that, but it's just kind of like how high and low or how stretched the graph gets. So we're going to multiply those y values by that. And we're always going to use that -1, 0, 1 as our three starting y values. And then multiply as needed. B is going to affect the period. So the period is going to be pi over b. And then the asymptotes are going to be half of pi over b. One positive, one negative. So when you graph, you're going to have your asymptotes, 2 left and 2 right, until we start shifting. But for right now, we're just trying to get the basic idea down. So if I look at A, I've got a period. That's like letter A. I don't know why I wrote that there. I'm writing right under it. Let's just erase that and start over. So period is going to be pi over b, so it's 3/2. So that'll be the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So we get 2 pi over 3 for our period. So then those asymptotes are going to be half of that. So taking half of that would be doubling the bottom, or taking half of that would cancel out that 2 in the numerator. So our asymptotes are at -pi over 3, positive pi over 3. So here's my graph for A. I've got an asymptote at -pi over 3, positive pi over 3. Together that is 2 pi over 3, the period. Then my y values are -1, 0, 1. And I'm going to multiply those by A. So multiplying by that 2/3. So you get -2/3, 0, 2/3. So we've got 1/3, 2/3, 3/3 are -1, so I'm right here. 0, 2/3. And then as far as scaling go, half of -3, be doubling the bottom, -pi over 6. Half of pi over 3 would be doubling the bottom, pi over 6. And then I'm just going to connect my points there. Alright. And then for B, very similar looking, they just flipped where the fractions were. So that period in B is going to be pi divided by 2/3, which would be pi times 3/2, multiplied by the reciprocal. We get 3 pi over 2. The asymptotes will be half of that, positive and negative. So -3 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4. Dividing by 2 is the same as doubling the denominator. So we got -3 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, then half again, -3 pi over 8. Then cutting in half is doubling the denominator. We're multiplying by 1 over 2. So we've got our asymptotes there. And then we've got our y values. multiplied by 3/2. So that's getting multiplied by A. So negative 3/2, 0, 3/2. So I've got 1/2, 1, 1 1/2, negative 1/2, negative 1, negative 1 1/2. So I'm going from left to right, negative 1 1/2, 0, 1 1/2. And that would be your graph. So again, idea today is just putting the two together, very short. And then for homework, I want you guys to try this 23, 24, 25. And again, just email me if you have any questions. Thanks, guys.